You're listening to the St. Brigid Sessions recorded here at the St. Brigid Centre for the Arts and broadcast on CKCU 93.1 FM. The St. Brigid Sessions are brought to you by Brigid's Well, a pub located right here in the basement of the centre and accessible by the entrance on Cumberland Street. My name is Stephen Neale, and today on the sessions we've been featuring the music of Frank Cassidy, Dennis Alexander, with help from Jeff McClintock. And Frank, we began this session with two songs that you, I guess, had the lead on. And the first one was Killeen's
Fairy Hills, yeah.
And that's a traditional number.
It is, yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit about that song?
I tell you the truth, I don't know a lot about the history of it. A lot of these tunes, you know, it's difficult to actually trace the beginnings of them. I'm not saying that this one is untraceable, but I haven't actually gotten around to. All I know is I just love the tune, you know, and I've been playing it for a long time. I put it on my. I made a CD about 16, 17 years ago, and I put it on that. And every now and then I resurrect it and play it again. And Dennis is a pretty good accompanist, and of course Jeff. So I like to do it in different configurations, you know, and it just sounds nice in this. It's very traditional sounding, and that's the way it should be played, I think.
How did you first hear this song, or where did you first hear this song? Because traditional songs are traditional, and they're quite often just transferred musician to musician.
Right. Now this tune it's played in different sort of settings, you know. It's played in, you might hear it, but somewhat different, you know, like maybe the second part is slightly different. This particular setting of it, this particular way of playing it, I actually heard from a chap here in Ottawa when I first came here, a chap called John Wood, and he used to play with a band called 6 Mile Bridge that I ended up doing a few gigs with as well. But anyway, that's the chap I heard playing this particular setting of it, and I really liked it.
And you, on the sessions today, you've been playing the banjo and the whistle. And the whistle is a fairly significant Irish instrument, would you say, or is?
I would say it's the thing about the whistle. Now, this is not exactly a penny whistle. This is like a big penny whistle, so it's at least 2 pennies. Now, this is this was made for me by a chap down in the States called Michael Copeland. But the penny whistle would be, in terms of size, you know, like maybe about that size, so-called penny whistle or tin whistle, right? Now they have little tunable things on them, but in terms of Irish traditional music, you know, I would say I started out by, I bought something cheap, you know, that you buy it and you can learn how to play it on your bicycle sort of thing on the way home from the shop, and it's just a fun thing to play and easy, but I stuck with it, you know. I kind of like to play it as that's what I'm a tin whistle player, okay? I don't call myself a banjo player.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
And so you grew up in Ireland.
Yeah.
And it was music's always a big part of the Irish culture and growing up. And was that big in your household too?
Oh, I would say for me, certainly, like traditional music from the time I heard it was the way. I couldn't get enough of it. I couldn't play. I started playing in a céilí band when I was about 15 or 16, for real money at that point. I was making more. I was just telling Jeff on the way over here in the car, I was making more playing in céilí bands per night than I was all week as an apprentice. So it was a good deal in those days. You could make money as a you know, sort of an amateur or sort of semi-amateur musician, semi-pro musician.
Now, the second song that you played was Hugh's Lament, which is an original song.
Yeah.
And one thing that I'm intrigued by too is that, because I did listen to your CD, and a lot of the songs on there are original numbers. And because I think too, a lot of people, you know, when they think about Irish music, think about the traditional numbers. Yeah. Is there a lot of new writing in that traditional sound still going on?
Oh, absolutely, yeah, a lot. And it's kind of the old thing, you know, you're coming up with a new tune, you're putting it in the pot, and if somebody likes it, they will play it, and then it'll get into the mix, and it'll become part of the traditional, so-called traditional tunes that people play. But not too many get in, would you say, Dennis? People are fairly picky about, but you will hear lots of newer tunes that have been done in the last 10, 20, and 30 years, yeah.
Frank has a number of wonderful compositions that are played at sessions. He's kind of modest about.
Well,
it's
it's a fun thing. This particular tune, Hugh's Lament, is kind of an interesting story about that.
Yes.
My wife's uncle, his name is Hugh, of course, and I named the tune after him because he was heard to sing in the hearse as they were going to the graveyard, and his brother was, of course, the corpse in the hearse, but he sang him from the church to the graveyard because he was driving through a piece of countryside that they grew up as kids, right? And it was his last final farewell to him. I was just the idea of it sort of just stuck with me.
And so you heard this event took place in Ireland?
Yeah.
And did you write it? Were you living in Canada
No,
then?
my wife actually told me this story.
Oh, okay.
She came back.
Okay.
She was over at her father's funeral and heard it from the funeral director. Right. It had happened maybe a couple of years prior to that. And she came back and told me this story, and I was just fascinated by it, But there's a tradition in Ireland of singing to the corpse, Anyway, it sounds a little bit morbid, but it's a very happy thing. It's a very joyous thing, So although we call it Hugh's Lamentation, it's a semi-happy thing. It's kind of like Irish wakes. There's a little bit of joy in it as well as a bit of sadness.
And Dennis, you led a couple of songs here in the session as well, and one of them is Roshan Dove. Now, did I pronounce that correctly?
I wouldn't know the difference really, because I don't speak Irish. Frank would be able to tell you.
Roisin, yeah.
Roisin,
Roisin Dove,
yes.
yeah.
This tune, I'd played it for years, and we did an event here downstairs to commemorate the 100 years of the Easter uprising in 1916, and that I was asked to play that particular air because I guess it's probably more of a piping tune, I would think. You hear a lot of people playing it on YouTube with the pipes.
I think it was actually written by Sean O'Rea, though, was it? I'm not sure.
And I don't know. I know it was played on that Sean O'Rea documentary that he did on, called it Mies Air.
What's the difference musically? What's the difference between a lament and an air? Or is lament you use that in the title for Hugh's Lament, but is there a difference between a lament and an air? Or
well, a lament usually, Dennis played the other one, Archie Beaton, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That is a lament. Usually if someone is dead or dying, if it sort of if it marks the death of a person, typically it's called a lament.
Yeah.
So then musically, what is an air?
Well, an air can be a very it can be obviously a slow tune as well,
right.
But it can be, the lark in the clear air, for instance. But that's a joyous thing. It's about, there's nothing sad about that. Although my wife always says, "Don't play any slow airs; they make me sad." But typically slow tunes, they do have an air of sadness to them, but they're gorgeous. The Lark in the Clear is a good example of one which is about a joyous thing, not about a sad thing.
And frequently they will be played without a meter to it. In other words, there's no steady, disciplined timing structure to it,
Right.
and it's sort of sometimes difficult to accompany those airs.
Now I'm curious how, because you're from West Quebec,
Yes.
and you grew up listening to music on 78s.
Yes, and my mother was very proud of her Irish ancestry, and I did a search on her name was Armitage, and they originated from Tipperary. Jordan, I believe, is where. And when I started looking through all her ancestors and relatives, every one of them, the Irelands, the Wolseys, about half a dozen different branches, they all came from Ireland. So my mother was very proud of that, and she, I guess, drummed it into our heads. But
And so, but then you picked up that. Is that the music that you were drawn to too?
yes. I felt more comfortable playing this type of music because when I was a young lad, we had a little family band. My dad played the fiddle and my sister played the piano, and we used to go around and play for old-time square dances. And I was maybe 12 years old, I suppose, when I started. So.
And your interest is also sort of evolved, or you've been so captured by it that you now make instruments, and including this one that you have.
Yes.
And how long did it take you to figure out how to make a violin first, and then how many have you made? And tell us a bit about this one that you played today.
I started building violins in 1981, so it's 35 years I've been doing it. It started off as a hobby. I was in the printing business, and I had an opportunity to take an early retirement, and I started doing this full time in 1999. So, and this is I've built 83 instruments, including 2 cellos and a viola, and I've sold most of them because people seem to like them.
Again, I think Dan's being a
You're
little bit
probably
modest
being
there.
a little modest.
I mean, he goes down. He's competed down in the U.S. and Dennis is very well known, certainly for his quality of instruments. That's for sure.
There's one of them. They're in the States. A lot of them in the States. A lot of them across Canada. And in fact, there's one person in Ireland bought one from me. So.
It's the acid test, Dennis.
That's the, as you said, the acid test. So
Yeah.
it's gone
That's right,
overseas,
yeah.
so you're good to go.
Yeah.
And so you said 83 you built. What number is this?
This is my last instrument, number 83.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is 84 and 85 in the works too?
Well,
right
84
now?
is going to be another cello.
Okay.
I'm halfway through it now.
Very good. Very good. Well, I'd like to thank both you, Frank, and Dennis Alexander, Frank Cassidy, Dennis Alexander, for coming in today, along with Jeff McClintock, for coming in and taking part and bringing us this great Irish music. You were saying earlier that it can be very beautiful, and there are some absolutely gorgeous moments that we have heard and we'll hear again on the St. Brigid sessions.
Yeah. We didn't get around to playing any fast ones, as you can probably.
Yes.
Yeah, we kind of stuck with the more sedate and subdued laments and airs, but yeah, that's a part of it. A part of the Irish music maybe we don't hear enough of, actually. To tell you the truth, you know, you normally associate Irish music in North America, particularly with, you know, lots of reels and jigs and pubs and stuff like that, which are great too. We do that too.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for coming in and playing some music for us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Steve, and thanks for having us indeed, James.